and welcome to this week's Madaxeman podcast. This is the 12th, the dozen. We've made a dozen. So a remarkable achievement in this time of lockdown. We also managed to squeak over 2 hours with this one, cover all the usual bases, what we painted, what we played, some online stuff, some real world stuff, some obscure stuff involving ships this week as well. We also talk about the Napoleonic Wars in our regular feature, Teaching to Me About Napoleon. Andy's quiz returns, Andy's quiz music returns, you'll be pleased to know, and we discuss in great depth the late Roman army in Art de la Guerre. So all of those things are waiting for you, so sit back, listen to the music, listen to the pod, and enjoy your painting.
This means war.
And welcome yet again to number 12. It's a round dozen for the lockdown podcasts. It's a round dozen podcasts. It's a full set of 7 people here. All the numbers are adding up. Astonishingly, it appears that I think nearly 110 people have already listened to last week's podcast within the last 3 days since we released it on Friday evening. So I think that's a ringing endorsement of how terrible the weather was in the UK at the weekend, and how little barbecue and outdoor maintenance managed to get done by everybody. But without further ado, into our regular start, our regular first hour almost of the normal podcast. So looking around the screen, straight in the middle, Mr. Cool Kids Adam Warsdale. Last week you were starting with some, you were thinking about starting with some Romans, but I guess you had to put them together, and you were doing something with goblins as well. But what's the painting queue this week for the boy Warsdale?
The Romans are in the queue. They're not going to be for quite a while. But I was going to do some Lord of the Rings scatter terrain that you get in the box, and some Russian tanks. Now, I had a bit of a slow week. I didn't do the tanks, but I did the Lord of the Rings scatter terrain. And I was going to do it really, really quick. Dry brush grey, bit of ink maybe. But there's a couple of pieces where it's like, if you remember the film and the books where they're in this sort of like hall with books in, and Games Workshop, they're quite good at little details like that. So there's lots of open books around and pages lying on the ground. Okay. And I was just going to paint them white or ivory, because I almost never use white except to highlight ivory, but it didn't look right because it was just a blank page. Okay. So you got to do some writing on them. And then I thought, I've got a good magnifying glass with a daylight bulb around it, so I could actually do. I'm sorry, right.
We're going to stop. We're going to interject there then. So you've got a magnifying glass with a daylight bulb light around it.
It's on an articulated arm.
Yeah, on an articulated arm. Just you happen to have that lying around.
As you do. Well, it's as toy soldier painters do.
And did you buy it? When did you get that? Has that been something?
Years ago. It's just a very good lamp for giving light when you're painting, but it just happens to be around a magnifying glass.
And how do you? Because I've got a magnifying glass on an arm as well, but I always find I struggle when you're using the magnifying glass to kind of the scale disappears, so I find it actually harder to paint. Depth perception goes all skewy.
I almost never use a magnifying glass for that reason. It's all a bit, unless you're doing something really fine where you've got to see clearly, I wouldn't use it.
So you're really using it as a light then?
Yeah, usually.
Okay.
But because I've got it, I thought, because it's Lord of the Rings, I could actually, rather than just do squiggles and pretend it's writing, with a magnifying glass, I could actually do proper elven runes. And then I thought,
in what scale is this? What scale is this?
28 mil.
28 mil. Okay.
Yes, which is why you need magnifying glass. And then I thought, because it's a whole actual language which you can find online, I could write actual elven words in these books. And then I thought, that's mental.
Oh my God, I'm a wargamer. Yeah.
And I thought, that's mental. Put the idea down and step away from the idea. So in the end, I just did do the sort of like squiggles and a bit of an ink wash, so it looks like painting. But it's like my wife's got a theory that sort of like all toy soldier players are somewhere on the spectrum. And I was getting to the point of it's like it's just as long as the colour spectrum. And I decided just as long as I could still realise that that's mad, it means I'm not mad.
You're not mad. That's good. That's the Yossarian approach, isn't it? It's catch
Yeah.
22.
No, you're going to look back at it and wish you had.
No.
Had you worked out what words you were going to write there in Elvish?
Well,
Elven.
no. It's, as I say, it's like I stepped back from that one
Right.
quite gingerly.
Right. So you've done a kind of relatively slack version of a book, and but what about the scatter terrain? You know, because Games Workshop scatter terrain, I have a sort of mortal fear that it's the most expensive thing in the world for what it is. But,
Well, no, because I got this. I mean, because I got the Lord of the Rings starter box, and it's because when it first came out, I'm a sucker for Lord of the Rings, so I was going to buy it. I just didn't because I thought I can't be bothered. And then years after nobody played Lord of the Rings, there was an unopened, still in a cellophane box on eBay for not very much money. So I bought it because
you'd accidentally on eBay, and you accidentally typed in Lord of the Rings 28.
something like that. I can't remember the exact
slip of the keyboard. Yeah.
He wants the precious.
But then it's just been in the cupboard again for another how many years. And then I sort of like ended up painting the toys. So as there were these bits of terrain in there as well, just to sort of like finish it off, I did them as well. And the kids, the Lord of the Rings game is actually quite good. It's a well-designed skirmish game, so I'm going to play it with the kids. And then the scat terrain's useful because I can see I'll end up doing with D&D with them and stuff as well. So
yeah,
all good, all useful. And now it's done.
Excellent. So, and did you do any of the tanks, did you say, or did they just sit while you were deciding not to do runes?
Yeah, they just, because again, in a way, the two things I was going to do last week was so quick and easy. I didn't quite get around to starting both of them.
Right. Okay. You kick them. So so you didn't even get the Romans and start snipping them off the sprues or sticking a few together?
Oh no, as I say, the Romans are in a queue. They're
okay.
not be for a while because I want to finish off the Mongols before I get there. But
okay then.
Because my lead and plastic mountain has been going down, so you've got to build it up a bit.
You've got to build it up again then. Okay. And going kind of clockwise, Peter, you're there still with a battlefield in the background on your Zoom background. I think some of the troops appear to be dressed in white. But I have a suspicion that you became sick of Austrians at some point this week.
Yes.
And just started in mainlining some sort of fantasy weirdness.
Yeah, I got fed up painting white. So I thought, what can I do that's not white? And so I've got some of these Reaper miniatures from one of the Kickstarters I did, and always got around to painting them. And there was a bit on the club forum about how a couple of people were looking at doing Art de la Guerre, but in fantasy. So I started looking at some of the figures I've got, realised I've got shed loads of different things. And Richard mentioned
why did you invest in a plastic fantasy Kickstarter, and when was that?
Well, one I've invested in several, and got two boys. So the Bones miniatures are great because they're pretty indestructible. Yeah,
they're super stuff, aren't they? Yeah,
they're lovely. I mean, they're really good models. Actually, there's some lots of sort of character to them and everything else. But they're nice and flexible. So with having kids and that, it's not as though they're going to get broken very easy like hard plastic because it's soft plastic.
So your theory is you bought them for the kids. You're saying you bought them for the kids.
Yeah, it was for the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always for the kids. So what have you been doing? What have you been painting?
Well, I've been painting a gorilla with wings, a whole host of goblins and orcs. And the latest one is a reptile with a couple of swords, and of course a dwarf riding a bear because you've got to have that in your army. Yeah,
and what's the paint scheme for a winged gorilla? Is there is there a uniform guide? They're not somebody dressed in white with yellow cuffs, are they?
Well, at present I got was a whole box of this Villaggio game colour for one birthday. And there's all these lovely colours that I haven't got around to using because I was painting things like Austrians or things that would need green for like World War II. So I went to all the colours that I hadn't used yet and picked out something which seemed suitable for a winged beast, storm blue. So I'm slowly working my way through all the random colours I haven't used, so I can use like jade green and things. Because why not?
It's brown.
It's not white.
Actually, no, I've got a couple of jade greens, and I've started using them much more on the ancient figures. It's a really, bold colour, and then even a bit of a wash on it, it tones it down. So
yeah, it's picking up the scales quite nicely on this lizard type thing.
And a lizard with 2 swords, because a lizard with 1 sword wouldn't be scary enough, really, would it?
Oh yeah, and they've got a bow on the back because you just have to.
Bit of ranged attack. So
yeah.
Does that mean the Austrians just got to a point and just
they got whitewashed?
The Austrians are still awaiting their reinforcements through the post.
So you ran out then? You didn't down tools, or you just ran out of finished ones?
I've just run out. Supposedly they've been dispatched by Eureka UK. It's just when they turn up is a different matter. So I think this time next week I'll be back
UK Post. Vega is for UK Post at the moment.
Well, yeah, can't really complain. But, as Adam was saying, I'm starting on the lead mountain by starting the plastics. And it means, of course, I've got to now go and buy Dragon Rampant because I've got to use the figures in something other than just, it's a pretty good reason to use some weird colours. Yeah. So, more rules.
That had become really popular down the club, hadn't it? It's one of those Osprey, whatever they are, 10 quid books or something. But it seemed to really pick up.
Then it also means I started looking at Mantic and some of the other stuff and Oathmark about you can get some lovely dwarf miniatures and goblins riding wolves and things like this as a unit. So if Richard ever gets around to doing Art de la Guerre in fantasy, I've now worked out my unit in my mind about X number of goblin riders on wolves and various other things. So unfortunately, I'm, that lead mountain is just not going down. Yeah, it's diversifying.
I have been tempted by those sort of Oathmark and Frostgrave figures to see whether they would be compatible with, the Warlord ones and the Gripping Beast ones and stuff. But I just fear they might be a bit too heroic scale to mix in. I don't know if the arms and things.
I got some individual figures because they just looked really nice figures, and they seem to go quite nicely with some of the other stuff I had for Saga.
Okay.
So so some of the Saga stuff when you looked at what's the key Saga one?
Yeah, Gripping Beast.
Yeah, Gripping Beast. Some of the Gripping Beast stuff. The plastics are a little bit smaller than the Gripping Beast, but the normal metal ones seem to fit quite nicely alongside it. And if it's fantasy, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, because I think I was looking at some of the probably the Frostgrave, one of the Warriors sets, and trying to work out in my head if I could turn them into De Lamai because they were kind of wearing all sorts of Hillman type outfits. But
I know the one. Yeah,
Barbarians.
Yeah,
Barbarians.
Yeah,
Hillman Hunters.
Yeah,
yeah.
Barbarian Hunters.
Have you, Tamsin? Have you seen any of those in the flesh? Or
no, I haven't actually.
Right. Okay. Nobody else yet. I just see them online. They seem to, but there's all like nicely pro painted ones online. All right. So it's just been how many figures then? Has it been? Is there a count this week, Peter? Or
just about a dozen. Because I'm also doing some goblins and things as well. Because you've got to have fun with goblins. I like goblins.
It's a goblin off, so to speak.
Yeah.
And on that note,
they're suitably pyrotechnic.
Yeah. Okay.
The use of language in Toy Soldiers is quite interesting because the question you asked at the beginning of talking to Peter is a question that I would expect to hear in a police interview.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Webb, when did you decide to invest in the Plastic Fantasy Kickstarter?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
When was your wife aware of this fact?
Yes, indeed.
She was when the box turned up.
Yeah, that's normally the time at which people find out, isn't it?
And she said, "What is this?" But no, she was quite pleased because there was a nice mixture of stuff. So I've got the next one coming. So I was just looking at the different figures in that. It's a quite nice mix. There's lots of characters with it. I just like it from that perspective. It's not overly expensive when you're doing the Kickstarter. And it's a nice surprise when the box finally turns up.
I guess it's something that you can credibly tell the other half is actually for the kids with a reasonably straight face.
Yeah, not anymore.
Not anymore. That's given up.
But she likes painting the dragons anyway, so.
Okay, that's a good result.
Kids are older than you are.
Getting
The
that way.
kids are bigger than I am now.
In
Yes.
wargaming terms, that's for sure.
This means war. This means war.
So going round again, and Dave, you look like you're still. Is that still another bottle of Hefesteiner? Will you ever run out of that, or is this something else?
I've been discussing the fact that it should be able to recycle the bottles back to the brewery in this country, but it's impossible. In Germany, they come and pick up the bottles.
Yeah, it's a long way in lockdown, though, isn't it? You'd have to drink a lot to make it worth their while doing.
But I think I think I have drunk quite a lot. It might be worth doing.
Yeah, okay, it could be that. So what? I've seen some of your Egyptians this week. What's been the discoveries of your Egyptian odyssey?
The bowmen are good. A little bit of flash on the arms I've discovered. I need to pare them down and tidy them up a bit more before spraying them. But I've done 5 bases of bowmen, which is enough to be going on with, although I think I've got enough figures for another 3 or 4 bases of bowmen, which is going really strong on the bowmen. And so the bowmen will be finished. I'm about to start doing all the skirmishes, and I've started on one of the chariots, but like with chariots, it's always difficult, and I don't know.
Yeah, because we were talking about the wheels and the axles last week. Have you a kind of a
I
wheel
have
wobble?
You're right, they do bend today.
Yeah,
but also I'm just trying to think out of a go faster paint scheme for the chariots, and how much blue to put on the non-pharaoh chariots. So number 1 chariot is being painted as in figuring about. Quite like the horses. Not sure I like the chariot figure so much. I'm thinking when I do buy the chariots, I might even go for the Syrian, the sort of Mitanni figure, and not use the Egyptian ones.
Yeah, I think I found when certainly with Assyrians and Mycenaeans, at least you know what to paint the chariots to give them a bit of colour. You know, the Assyrians have got those stickers that I use, and then the Mycenaeans you do with the cowhide. But the Egyptian ones, they're just sort of wicker basket-y type things, and it's how do you give them colour without it looking like you painted them as a toy soldier player?
Yeah, as a day go faster stripes and stuff.
Yeah, bit of a challenge.
But I mean, I've got a whole drawer full of Magus and Militum, the old small chariots, those ones with all the multicolour bardings on the chariot horses and that. And because I painted them years ago for DBN, for the Ugarit army, and I've got hundreds of those, and I don't like those. But we'll get there. Considering I need to have 12 chariots, it's going to be an interesting debacle. So.
Why do you need to have 12?
You don't need to have 12, I'm sure.
No, but 12 would be useful to have all the options.
There's need and want. Always remember that.
Yeah.
The less says he can, so...
Yeah.
How many times are you going to ever deploy 12 chariots?
No,
maybe done it.
I think I definitely need to have 7 in the army plus 3 generals. So that's 10.
Yeah, I think
you've got to have a choice between the stripy hats going forward to back and from side to side.
Yeah, blue and white and red and white. Yeah. No, I must admit, Peter, I think I've tried that army a few times, and the answer is how many times will you deploy 12 chariots? The answer is just the once.
Yes.
It's from my experience of attempting to make that successful, but it didn't really work.
Stripy hats.
Yeah, no, those stripy hats are solid.
Kind of Sunderland fans or something.
I think that's the other way around. They're probably some second division Portuguese team or something with the horizontal red hoops or something on it. All right, okay. So Tamsin, to you next in your Judge Dredd background, and I think you were starting back bloke through wheels or something, wasn't it?
Waiting in
so working through. I actually.
It comes with slide presentation.
Wow, that's very nice, Tamsin.
Was it
So this is you painted up this terrain to start with, then the other week the housing and things like that. No,
I painted all the judges' figures and the law masters. Then I thought I want a bit of terrain as a backdrop, so looked through the MDF pile and found a suitable. I built factory building from Sarissa, and I went to town a bit with it. Adding posters, graffiti, and stuff.
I was just thinking, you probably spent ages making that terrain look so grotty.
Yeah.
It looks cool.
It's three successive rounds of weathering, adding posters and graffiti to get it to the.
I like the crack in the upper wall. That looks quite neat.
That's part of the MDF.
Oh, I see. Right, okay.
And are these metal figures or plastic figures underneath?
These are all the new Warlord resin. So it's sort of
resin. Okay.
So it's a plasticky resin that I spin cast.
Those Lore Masters are quite nice.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be Anderson?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good. And are these photos up on your blog already as well?
Or? They're on. There's a link through to the Quarantine Challenge on my blog. There's a link through to the Quarantine Challenge blog where you got all the pics.
All these photos. These are fantastic. Yeah, really good. I love the highlighting that. So we were talking last week about what was the core judge colour, which was sort of, it looks like you've gone a really dark blue with some highlights.
The pretty much standard comic book.
Yay!
So black with dark blue highlighting.
Okay. Is there any specific colours that you used on those? That because that looks a really strong colour.
Black mixed with dark Prussian blue, and then with dark blue added for the second highlight.
Okay.
If you're going to be topical, you should have a bit of graffiti. This is Dominic was here.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. I should have done.
I think there's still, there's a lot of graffiti on it, but there might still be a little bit more room for a bit of Dom was here.
There's room for more.
No, there's definitely room for more.
Mega City 1, not Durham.
Oh, sorry. Move that one. That's one for Simon.
Welcome from down. Graffiti from down under. Is that Dave for Mayor? There's that one there as well.
Yeah, Dread fans will know that one.
That's not.
Dave was an orangutan.
Dave was an orangutan.
No, he died.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
He was assassinated.
It's a bit cruel.
No, these are fabulous. Well, we'll definitely get a link to on this week's episode to those, because those are awesome. And you use did the clear plastic bases come with them, or was that something you chose to put them on?
That was something I chose to put them on. They come with sort of standard cast-on bases. I just cut them off from those before painting, which in hindsight was a little bit of a mistake.
Well, you're not convinced now by the clear plastic. Now you put them on.
Oh no, I'm convinced by that. It was just a mistake to remove the cast-on base before painting them, I think.
Oh, I see. You had nothing to hold them with.
I inserted sewing pins in, snipped off the nub bit and put them into the corks, but it wasn't as strong a hold as it should have been. So some of them kept falling off or spinning.
Right. Okay.
Having finished the judges, I moved on to the next batch of figures, which was some city death. The Citizens Defence Forces. Each block has their own militia unit who called out in times of disasters or attacks.
Just general violence.
To assist or as requested by the judges, to assist them.
Or sometimes to fight the block.
Usually, the Mega City 1 being what Mega City 1 is, they're typically populated by drawing sort of malcontents, paranoid nutters, all sorts of idiots.
You should have a statue on a plinth being pulled down there.
Giving them access to high-grade military weapons is probably not the best idea. So they're frequently involved in wars against other blocks and so on.
Just general thievery.
Yeah.
Do Warlord do East Meg judges?
They've got only 2 so far.
Okay.
They've got 2 East Meg agents. So you've got Orlok the Assassin and his satellite, and you've also got a female East Meg agent.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I just think the East Meg judges have got better uniforms.
Oh yeah, maybe not as cool as the Vatican judges.
Vatican judges, I think.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's getting pretty niche, isn't it? Even for niche comic book stuff.
Mind you, the Hondo City judges, they're pretty cool.
This is way after I stopped reading 2000.
Yeah.
Cue that Monty Python sketch about the church police.
Right. So with with these small batch, almost literally individual figures painting, do you what sort of the batch size that you do, and do you do one color on half a dozen of them, or one color across the whole job lot, or do you just do each individual figure with the different colors, then go back to it?
With those ones I did those were pretty uniform, so I just did the whole batch in one go. So for the judges, that was 9 foot and 2 riders, and the City Death, it was 9 foot.
And do you find that you go back and add more details than you think and correct stuff, or are you able to do one pass of one color and then that's done? Do you go back and repaint stuff out at all? Do you plan it out in advance, or do you just kind of do it?
I tend to work inside out, so starting with the furthest back. I don't think I really had to do any cleanup. It's only possibly on the judges I had to go back and do with a black glaze to tone down the second highlight a bit.
Okay, wow, all right, interesting. So yeah, some of those low batch stuff is a bit like when I was doing, or I suppose Adam as well, when we were both doing Malifaux, you'd end up doing a crew or a handful of people, which was just so different to doing the mass industrial, 15, 25 mil army stuff. But it was just which points you started chopping and changing things.
Yeah, I've started work on the gangs now, the gang members now. So that's all going to be very individual, but I'll try to repeat colours where I can.
Yeah, get a palette. Okay, interesting. That's neat. And then Andy, what's this week? You were doing, I think, had you done the dogs last time for your Irish?
Yeah, I finished the plastic paddies. They're all done.
Yeah.
So I'm now on the metal mix, the metal figures which Clive had given me beforehand, and I'm going to have to get that drill out one day and drill holes in hands to put spears in.
And these are still 28 mil figures.
Yeah. This is a Saga warband, and I'm about halfway through the whole lot, and but I've just got one lot of militia, a couple of kind of Hearthguardy types, and a boss man. So I'd say I've more than half done it. The militia figures, they're not very much, the levies, there's not very much on them to paint, so they'll be fairly basic.
Do you know if you got them second hand, do you know which manufacturer they're from?
I don't. I could ask Clive and find out, but they're not the greatest of figures, but they're a gift and they're free, and once painted up they look all right. So
okay,
they're meant to be scruffy Irish levy, who aren't very well appointed, so they'll do the job. As if I ever play Saga again. I haven't played it for ages.
Yeah, it's just a nice thing to collect armies for, isn't it? But it is so long since I played it as well. Right.
Yeah.
And still no more. You were just completely done and dusted with those 15 mil figures until I think your next one you said was going to hit the pikeman or something. The Zeiston, was it Zeiston pikeman?
No, the War and Empire. I've got the pikemen to do, and I've got a bag of late Imperial Roman legionaries, and then that's all the War and Empire stuff done. And after that, I shall have to think what to do.
Something new.
Yeah,
I'll be interesting to know how tough the warlords, the War and Empire hands are to drill on there, because I think their lead's quite solid on their figures, and I think they might be quite tough to drill, but that's another subject.
Well, we'll see.
I did them I did the pikemen.
Yeah.
For in the first Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And they're good because it's quite hard. Once you're drilling through, some of them, when some manufacturers are a bit softer, it tends to rip up more.
Yes.
But because they're harder, it was actually nicer. It was a bit hard to get going.
Right.
But once you did, it was quite nice to drill through for putting the pikes in.
Yeah. Peter, was that the Battle of Marengo, the picture on your background?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, that could be a thing. So before I come to Simon then, for me, this week was just tidying up and just finishing off that Hungarian army that I've been wittering on about. So I think 2 weeks ago we said it would take 5 or 6 weeks, but I kind of got and finished off all the cavalry and did quite a bit of photography as well over the weekend. So I managed to post, 60, 70 pictures of all the work in progress that I've been sending to some of you folks on WhatsApp over the last few weeks. got all that up and a whole set of photos in the little light box as well to do them. Finished off their basing, upgraded a couple more, and I think, Dave, I've actually now worked out what those bowmen are with the weird costumes and things. I think I found some of the pictures actually on the Essex site, and it is much more straightforward than it looks. They're just kind of wearing a kind of padded leather, either a gilet or a gilet with short arms with it. So I think I've just got the bowmen and the spears to finish off, which I should get done possibly this week. Maybe it'll kind of tail into next week. And then I have been sort of chewing over what else to do. I've got some more bits and pieces to do, but that army is pretty much done. And I did a few more flags. I managed to do another single general, because the army pack comes with all the heavy knights are in proper kind of metal horse armor, that sort of Maximilian, almost Renaissance style. Apart from 3, which are proper knights for the generals with all the clothy stuff. And I managed to do a second one where I glued a printed paper design over the actual knight himself, or over the cloth look on the plastic thing, which looks okay. And it's got a much tidier pattern, much more detailed pattern than I could ever do myself. I think I upgraded a couple of bases of Merleton medium knights as well, because I think there's some German medium knights that go in that army, and painted out some more German flags. But it's just really been a week of just finishing off that army, and then trying to start thinking about what to start on after that.
A lot of painting in 2-3 weeks.
Well, it wasn't. I think it was taking time with the horses, but the horses are in batches. There's 8 of this one and 8 of this one, and then it was sort of finished with army painter. So I'm just going to open a big smoke Fruju New England Pale Ale, which I think is a bit fruity here to do it. But so getting the horses done in one go and doing them first really made a difference, because then it seemed a lot quicker. And I was just experimenting.
Like a production line, then, isn't it?
And I was just experimenting with the shield stickers and printing off shields and things, and that was just an interesting thing to do, because I was doing something completely new. And
those are really good. The way they came out is brilliant.
Yeah, I was really, really chuffed with them. With just it's bad news if the little big man shield transfers, now that I've realised that you can download non-proprietary images from the internet, scale them up, print them out, and glue them on.
One problem with that, Tim.
Yeah.
How's Simon going to find an excuse to buy another army then?
Well, he can just download anything off the internet now, and then once he just finds something on Pinterest, that's the answer.
He had to build up an army because he got the wrong scale little big man.
Well, maybe he presses print on the wrong print on the wrong thing. Yeah. That could be the answer as well. So they got done, and the rest of the stuff's just been sort of staring at me. Although I did manage to base up a kind of an East European type ornate cathedral thing with golden domes on it. That was a souvenir that I picked up in Bulgaria, I think, earlier this year, of their main cathedral in Bulgaria, which, as long as I don't tell the Hungarians, they might just think it's sort of Orthodox Christianity, generic East European thing. But I think it's actually the main sort of national cathedral in Sofia. So that's really what I've been focused on this week, painting-wise. So
this means war.
Simon, what about you? What's been
No. So the big thing I've been working on this week has been, or last week, has been 7 Years' War Swedish. So I've now got almost all the mounted painted. Then, so that's 4 more battle groups of 3 bases each of cuirassiers, which all look quite good. 6 artillery pieces, 4 of the limbers, and then I've done 3 battle groups, each of 3 bases each of the skirmisher infantry. So they're all looking quite good. I've got a few generals as well, so because you always need more management.
Yeah, that's been a lot of units then.
So the skirmish guys, Simon, they're in single rank, are they?
Yeah, the skirmishers are in single rank
Yeah.
on the 30 by 15 basis,
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody else is on 30 by 30s, double ranked with regimental guns and banners and all that.
That's how it works in King of the Battlefield. Yeah.
Yeah, because I did something very different for a wargamer. I read the rules and looked at what the basic requirement was.
What, before buying the figures? That's heresy. Heresy.
They're a really fun set of rules to play. I've never had a bad game of it.
Sold. And is that, are the limbers in that army painted a particular colour, or is it just a brown wooden limber era?
I've gone for something a little bit prettier. So I've gone for the limbers are like an olive green type of colour, and then the artillery are a deeper blue with red wheels and stuff like that, and big brass cannons and all that, just to make it a bit more of a brighter army, especially if we ever get back to the pub, playing in a well-lit pub, you need all the highlighting you can get.
All the brightness and colour that you can get, yeah. Well, fingers crossed that's the case. And I think that brings us neatly on to the discussion of what gaming people have done this week. Bit of music. Right, so who's been looking around it? Anybody want to wave? Tell us about any games that they played this week. Adam, you're first up. You're doing a little wave. This is have you beaten the kids this week? Or metaphorically,
no, I don't usually get to beat the kids. I did a solo game. Do you know I said I was painting those World War II ships? I did a solo game with General Quarters 3, just with it was like a big Japanese heavy cruiser and a not so good British one, light cruiser, sort of like Graf Spee type scenario, just to test the rules to see if I could follow them. And it's a complicated enough game to make it interesting, but well enough designed to make it really quite quick and easy. So really enjoyed that, and now I'm going to do all the battles of the Savo Island campaign, Solomon Islands campaign, and that's something I'm intending to do solo, because just as an interesting telling a story type thing. So it's I'm all geared up to do that now. It's quite good.
Apparently, every American cruiser which took part in that campaign was either sunk or badly damaged.
Yeah, it's kind of, it was when the Japanese and US Navy's second half of 1942, when there was equilibrium.
Yeah.
Most of the battles were at night, and the Japanese were better at fighting at night. And it was just sort of like fairly brutal battles. So,
well, the Americans would find the Japs on the radar, wouldn't they? Japanese would say, bloody hell, what's in this? Lob off some long-range torpedoes and bugger off and, sink a few American ships on the way.
Well, no, it was even weirder than that, because the Americans thought they were better at fighting at night because they had radar. But they didn't realise that the Japanese had spent the last 20 years figuring out how to fight at night. So the Japanese were better. And the Americans I read one of the battles, I read the official United States Navy write-up. And the story was, they think the Japanese are coming into an ambush. And they open fire, and they all fire at the first Japanese ship, which explodes in about a minute. It just gets overwhelmed. And all the other Japanese ships turn away and run. And the sort of like official report says at this time the order for pursuit was given. And then there's just a brilliant sentence in this report, because the next sentence was, it was at this point the torpedoes start hitting. And the Americans thought the Japanese were coming into an ambush, but the Japanese optics were so good, they knew the Americans were there. So they just launched torpedoes, and when they turned and ran away, they weren't running away, they were going back to base because they had already won. It just took the Americans a couple of minutes to find out. So it's kind of like interesting stuff going on.
Wasn't it the American torpedoes just were not very good at that point in the war as well?
Well, they weren't as bad as the submarine ones.
The American torpedoes didn't work. They ran too deep, and they used a magnetic exploder because they thought that was a good idea. Everybody in the 30s thought a magnetic exploder was a good idea, but everyone apart from the Americans figured out that they were just too unreliable. So it would go under the ship and not explode. And the American torpedoes were appalling. The Japanese torpedoes were excellent. The Japanese torpedoes were so good that the Americans couldn't figure out what was happening. And in all the official American reports, they're writing reports of motor torpedo boats around or submarines because they couldn't figure out how they kept being torpedoed. And they just couldn't think it was the Japanese torpedoes from the destroyers doing it because they were far too far away for a torpedo to get that far. So it took them a while. The Americans figured out in the end, and they ended up winning and sort of like advancing. But yeah, no, it's an interesting little series of battles, which I'm not sure how interesting they would be to play as a one-on-one game, competitive game, but as a sort of series of solo games to watch the story unfold as opposed to playing competitively, it'll be quite interesting, I think.
So are you sort of learning about the history by playing the battle and going, I'd see why they did that because
I kind of know about the history, and I like toy soldiers, so I thought I would play the game as well. And I've got all the models, so I might as well actually use the bloody things, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, the Japanese destroyers are nice-looking ships, aren't they?
They are, but when they're 1/6000 scale.
1/6000. Yeah, that's a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this like sub kitchen table? You know, is this top of the biscuits in? It's 1/6000.
Well, no. World War II naval games. You can still do it on a 6x4 table, and at that small scale, that's kind of big enough because people shot so far, not so much at night, that if you want a chance to maneuver and play before, because a lot of naval games I've played in the past, sort of people put the ships on the table and they're close enough that you're shooting at each other on turn one. So in effect, it's a die rolling competition, really. So yeah, I went for a very small scale. So if you want a big game, you can split the fleets up. But most of these games will be night games, which were just murderous because it was all at very, very short range.
You've probably got about a dozen ships at most on each side.
Yeah, and they're dozen ships each side. They're not very far apart. And I remember someone describing the night battles as 12 people in a dark room, each with a gun, and someone strikes a match and everyone starts shooting.
I read something once where this was a wildlife program where they were looking at the reefs around Guadalcanal, and some of the ships had become bases for coral and fish and stuff like that. And they said they tried to track the position of the ships by reference to the logs in the battle. And the one consistent factor was that no ship sank at the position where it should have been according to its log.
Yeah, no, it's all. I mean, it was just because there was the first battle, the Battle of Savo Island, where the Japanese just completely did over the Americans, and there were some Australians as well. There was one bit where the Australian cruiser was brought up, and she was torpedoed on one side, and that's why she sank. Or it wasn't brought up; divers went down to it, and they also discovered that there were torpedo hits on the other side as well. So American ships would just go, fire! And it's just like they hit the wrong ship, and it was all just like, quite humorous in a I'm glad I wasn't there sort of way.
Was that one of the ones that got eaten by sharks as well, or is that a different series?
That was the Indianapolis, after they delivered the atom bomb to the base where they flew it off from in 1945.
They weren't allowed to radio their positions. That's why they all got eaten.
Okay.
It's a secret because they delivered the bombs. They couldn't tell anybody where they were.
What could the Japs do about it by then anyway? Nothing, I suppose.
Exactly.
From Jaws.
Yeah. Possibly. So, anybody else played a game? Andy, I think you played a.
Oh, sorry.
There's more.
One more thing, just a quick shout because it's brilliant. A few games of Exploding Kittens.
Yes.
Which everyone should do on a regular basis, to be perfectly
everyone
honest.
should do. Yeah. That should be something we should do on Tabletop Simulator. I'm sure they must have Exploding Kittens on that. That could be a thing.
This means war.
So Andy, you played a game as well. I think you played the legend that is Rafa Tortosa.
Indeed. Well, I played two games on this ADLG friendly international league. on Tabletop Simulator. I played Ollie Tyler on Thursday night, and I won that one by eating his camp, and he very kindly charged some hoplites uphill into some impact swordsman and an elephant, and that didn't go too well for him.
What were the two armies for that one?
I was using Carthaginian, he was using classical Greek.
Yeah, because I think he's just made a load of classical Greek armies, hasn't he? In the sort of 3D models. Are they all? I've not looked at them yet. Have they got nice shields and things like that? Is it?
Yeah, it's quite nice. They've got different shield patterns, and the elite heavy spear Spartan ones have got the lambda quite distinctly on the shields.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then yesterday I played Rafa, and I was using Carthaginians again. I was trying out a new list hopefully for warfare if it ever happens. So that we have to have 2 elephants in that. So I couldn't have Hannibal in Italy, but I had Hannibal before he went to Italy. And Rafa was using, I think, Seleucids.
Seleucid.
And he had 24 units. Pardon?
As always uses Seleucids.
Yeah, his classic huge army with bits and bobs and a bit of everything everywhere.
He had 24 units in his army, and he had all of his generals were ordinary, and they were all embedded in elite units.
Okay, that's maybe a different way of doing it then. So, because I've seen it before when he has like two big commands of every type of foot there is in the world and a rubbish elephant, and then sort of a smaller command of cataphracts and a couple of rubbish cavalry, I think, was it? Is that the way we've seen it, Dave?
I've never been good enough to play Rafa in those sort of competitions.
Okay.
Well, it was slightly different.
This thing you ripped off that we did in doubles?
Yes, that's the one we ripped off and copied in doubles, yeah. I think.
That's good.
Yeah. Seemed to work, yeah.
Yeah, he had one rubbish elephant in a sort of mixed infantry command, and then on one wing he had again a pikeman and a general and a pike, heavy infantry, and the mediocre two smelly camels and a light cavalry unit. And my Punic cavalry eventually turned them over and then made a grab for his camp. And I was kind of behind the curve for most of the game, but fortunately, with the aid of a 5-1 when in one particular combat, which stopped the unit dying, but just got badly mangled, I had enough time to take his camp and chase a few units off the board before that particular unit died.
Brilliant. So is that your third game on Tabletop Simulator then?
Oh, third on Simulator, one against you, and then 2 competition games. But,
good. And you starting to feel it's just like playing a game. It's not. Are you kind of getting used to it, or?
I think so. I think the a couple of key things. One, I think, is get your army list organised and remember to put a camp in there before you start playing. The other thing is, I think the method of communication between the players has a bearing on how long the game takes. Because when you and I played, we were literally chatting, verbally. And there was no delay. Rafa, because I phoned him up on WhatsApp, but he said, look, his English isn't good enough. Could I send him WhatsApp messages? And even though we were messaging fairly quickly, it did actually take a bit longer. And I think that slowed the game down considerably. Now, I'm not blaming him because his English is far better than my Spanish. But, I think it's just, the method of communication between the players does have a bearing on the length of time the game takes.
Yeah. Well, Dave, your Spanish is obviously perfect, isn't it? Now you can say Valencia or something.
I know spears and lanciere or something.
That's it.
And I know javelinos. Javelinos is very important.
Javelinos, indeed.
And, impactos.
Impactos.
Impactos is a very important piece of Spanish for you all.
You know the word for army in Spanish?
I think that's the extent of my Spanish.
Yeah, if you're playing Rafa, it's always Seleucid.
With Rafa, for army. Like, why is he throwing his toys across the room?
Yeah.
No, I was throwing the toys across the room.
I mean, I'll freely admit I've played no games this week, but I think Andy's missed one thing that's quite important about his game against Rafa. So I'll feed back to Rafa. I'll feed back to Andy for the last comment on what his game on Rafa.
Oh yes, well I think he's definitely done a central London moment in part of the game, because at one point he was sending me a message about an attack he was doing with his pikemen, saying, right, I'm 3 up in this one, and I'm attacking you in the flank. And I looked, and he was attacking this swordsman unit. And I said, Rafa, that's a heavy swordsman unit. I don't have any in my army. As he was purporting to attack his own unit.
In the flank.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So you get identical basing then. That's the problems with identical basing and digital
we like
troops.
That story. We think that's really good.
Yeah, we scrubbed the hits, of course, but it was still a funny thing to see.
That was a bold tactic. Did it work out for him?
Yeah.
This is the best player in Europe, this is.
An easy mistake to make.
I was delighted to scrape a draw against him.
No, that's the result. Anybody else had a game this week? Nobody, just me then. So I again had a part of this online friendly league for ADLG, and I played a chap from the States, Paul, who I was supposed to do doubles with at Cold Wars earlier on this year in my last overseas trip, but he ended up not coming. I think his wife, I was going to say put a gun to his head, but it's America, so that's possibly true. Told him that in no uncertain terms that his age and general health precluded him from going anywhere at all at the time at which world of lockdown was starting to creep in quite quickly, as I think was the case for a lot of people who were supposed to go to Cold War. So I never actually met him, and but now I've met him and played him online, and we had a game in this sort of friendly tabletop league, a transatlantic game on Sunday afternoon, and I was kind of giving a run out to sort of Hubert's German army, the early Germans, all those impetuous elite heavy foot, and then sort of two big mobs of elite medium cavalry on one wing, and in a classical period, and I think I told him I was going to use the Germans, then he picked the Gauls as an army that he doesn't normally use, and I think so we ended up with almost a mirror match. So he had lots of heavy infantry, impetuous swordsmen to match off mine, but he had a few more because his were kind of mixed average and elite. And then on the wings, we both had loads of medium cavalry and a couple of heavies. And again, he had, I think, more than me because his were ordinary and mine were all elite. And the two armies just lined up identically and slammed into each other. We got a waterway down as well to make it even less dynamic. And eventually numbers and dice told against quality, irritatingly. I think I kind of messed up by trying to be slightly over clever and split up my big command of heavy infantry, which meant they sort of went in two waves when they probably were just best off lining up and advancing and trying to minimize overlaps. I didn't need to do anything clever. But I think towards the end, I was one away in my last turn from breaking, and I think I needed to get about 6 of his army, and they had a heroic effort to do it, and I got 5 of them. So I think his army was, what was his army? I think his army was 27, and I got 26 of them, and mine was 24, and that went down as well. But again, once we got up and running on Tabletop Simulator, it was just a normal, straightforward game. Actually, it worked kind of well, I think. And the Germans, it's an army that, a bit like the Galatian army that I took to, where was it? Bournemouth last year, wasn't it? It kind of works because it's a bit left field and it's a bit of a surprise, and it catches more textbook classical armies off balance. But if you know it's coming, that ability to catch you off balance, you can kind of brace yourself. So that didn't quite work out as well. But I'm definitely going to fit in some more games over the next couple of weeks with that. I think I've got to take some holiday from work as well to try and fit some holiday in this half of the year. So that may well fit in a few more games during the day as well as stuff sort of gets eased up. So I think that's probably about it for the week of gaming.
This means war.
So how do you guys chat with each other when you're playing on CTS?
A couple of choices. Best thing is the in-game chat thing. You can just speak to each other without doing anything extra.
Right. Is that video chat or just audio chat or
just audio?
Text?
Yeah.
Video.
There's audio chat. it's a bit fiddly to find it and set it up. You've got to go in and switch it on, but it's once you've done that, it just works.
I can never remember where
it's
it
quite
is.
good quality as well.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty
have you
decent.
all mastered how to move groups and things now?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Wheeling,
Nope.
all sorts of stuff. But if you're just lining them up and go forwards, it's straightforward. So
That was the bit
I think-
we found difficult at first, and that sort of like gave me the heebie-jeebies.
it becomes a lot easier. I think
Pick
I'm,
armies where you're just going straight forward then, Dave.
Like Galatians and Germans,
that's the secret. Yeah, I think me and Simon are going to have a kind of run through tomorrow evening at some point, just to have a look at it. So,
well, I'm going to give Andy a game on Wednesday, and if I can get there, we'll go for it.
So it's now that time of the week for our foray into the murky world of the Napoleonic Wars in our second, again, I suspect, increasingly popular theme-tuned, and it's the theme tune that's popular, not the feature, of teaching Timmy about Napoleon. So last week on this feature, we kind of got to, as always seems to be the case with this, in my ongoing education from everyone else around the screen, a slightly weird thing in that Napoleon had decided the best way to irritate the British was to go to Egypt, and had fought a series of disastrously unsuccessful battles against the British, and then had gone home to France a hero. And that's sort of where it ended. And there was something about being one of the top people in France, or of which there were 3 or something. But so he won battles before and went home a hero, and got promoted. Now he lost battles and went home a hero, which I can see as if that's a skill of yours, that's probably destines you for great leadership. No matter what you do in life, that's kind of successful. But so he's asking the room again. So Napoleon's gone back. He's got rid of the Cairo runs, or whatever they're called, the pyramid trots, and he's now back in Paris eating his croissants. He's got his bicorn hat on at this time, I imagine, because I think that's an early sort of Revolutionary Wars thing. France is full of revolutionary fervour. They kick most people around, but I imagine they're still surrounded by people who'd rather they had a king and stuff. So what? How did he end up a hero when he went back? Was it just good PR?
Yes.
Well, partly, but he also did win some battles. I mean, he did effectively take over Egypt militarily,
despite losing.
He lost against the British.
Well, he won,
and
he won against the Egyptians, and then he lost against the British.
That was a naval thing.
And land.
Where did he lose? I mean, okay.
Acre, Siege of Acre, basically. But that was because it was an English officer with
Acre.
Sidney Smith. That's right. Yeah.
He'd also been asked to return home anyway, so it's not like he was running back. He'd been sent several messages to come home anyway to help them. But by the time he got there, France had a couple of victories, so he turned up and said, it was good time for him to turn up anyway.
Okay, so he was winning a bit against the mighty Egyptian army. Then the French said, "Come back home," for some reason which we're yet to find out. But the letters took quite a long time, lockdown, post, all that sort of stuff. He probably lost a couple of battles while it was lost in the mail, and then thought, "I better get back before they realise I've lost." So, what was he going back for then? What did they need him for?
Well, they were fighting against all the rest of Europe at the time, but they managed to pull off a couple of victories. But it's an ongoing thing for the next 15 years, really. But Republic was bankrupt. But his brother was the Speaker of the House.
Financing all these expeditions to Egypt that bankrupted.
Exactly. So his brother and buddy were, Speaker of the House and guys in charge, and so they brought him in and basically changed over the directorate, basically.
Okay, so when he went back and was hailed a hero, he was hailed a hero by his brother and his best mate, who was sort of running the government.
Pretty much.
Right. but he'd beaten the Austrians before, so they presumably were back in their little box in Vienna. So who else was having a go at him at the time?
Well, the Russians had as well, because
the Austrians and the Russians
and the British
came back, and the Austrians came back with the Russians this time, and were having a go at him in northern Italy.
We're doing quite well.
But hadn't the Austrians been put back in their box and done some sort of peace treaty? Did they just cheat?
Yeah, they got out of the box again.
Yeah.
Oh right, okay. They clambered out the box, the Austrians,
and brought the Russians with them,
and brought the Russians to northern Italy.
Yeah.
Well, no, the Russians decided they wanted to invade Switzerland. Funnily enough.
Is that closer to? I guess that's closer to Russia than northern Italy.
The Russian army split into two parts. One part went into Italy. One part went into Switzerland. Because
were there countries
had invaded Switzerland?
Were there countries in the way, those sort of Ukraine type places, or was it just all Russia at that time? Was it one of those?
So all the way to Poland was part of Russia at that time.
Ah, okay, right. So Russia was next to Switzerland by then.
And also,
who wants to explain to Tim about the 3 partitions of Poland? That would be fun.
Yeah.
No, because don't forget they were basically allowed to go through Austria because they were Austria's allies.
When we talk about Austria, we're talking about the Habsburg Empire. So it's the Austro-Hungarian.
Which covered a large part of Poland.
I now right. So it's not Austria.
Poland had been split 3 ways.
And we're talking about the Habsburg,
Russia and Austria.
Yeah.
So Austro-Hungarian Empire was pretty big then.
Got you. So it's not, when we're saying Austria, that's just shorthand for the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which would cover all those little other places in the middle of the country. So it wasn't just schnitzel; it was goulash and all sorts of things.
Croatia, Hungary, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria.
So basically, at this time, the Austro-Hungarian army could have had its own sort of version of Euro 1794 or something, with 2 groups of 8 and seeding, quarterfinals, semi-finals, all that sort of thing. Possibly even 4 groups of 4.
Their own song contest.
They could have their own song contest.
Paint them.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard Henning Wehn explain about timing in comedy? He did a joke, and he said that he told a friend that he was going to watch a football match, and his friend asked him who he was playing, and the friend said Austria-Hungary, and he said, "Really? Who are they playing against?" Which 100 years ago would have been a funny joke. So that's why his timing is important in comedy. Again, better when he does it, but quite unique still.
I'm glad you didn't do.
Other really good joke is he's asked what British team he supports, and he says Coventry.
So we're back to this. So we know that it's the Austro-Hungarians, which makes it a lot more understanding why their friends, the Russians, were able to get to Switzerland. So the Russians fancy a bit of Switzerland. Invading Switzerland's always been a bit tricky, but they're having a go at that. And they're also in Italy again. So Napoleon, presumably, is there with his mates in Paris, having got really good PR and dodged out of Egypt before losing. And he's going like, bloody hell, I've got to go give the Austrians a kick again. Is that where we're at? So,
well, kind of, yeah. Basically, things went. The French did have an army in Italy, but things went fairly disastrously for it, and Napoleon had to go down and try and rescue the situation.
In the Alps.
And there was also a falling out between the Austrians and Russians, because Russians thought that the reason the campaign, the aim of the campaign, was to beat the French up.
Right.
Whereas the Austrians thought it was about gaining territory, regaining and gaining territory. So there's a big falling out between Suvorov, who was in Italy with the Russian corps, and the Austrians, and Suvorov had been kicking French butt.
Right.
And I should point out that at this time, the Russian army was essentially wearing Prussian 7 Years' War uniforms, different colours, but 7 Years' War uniforms.
So they're in second-hand clothes, these Russians, but they're giving the French a kicking. But did the Russians really expect to hold territory in Italy with sort of the Austro-Hungarian Empire in the way? They must
No,
have expected it.
Russians went into it not aiming to, without any territorial ambition. Their main ambition was pretty much like in the 7 Years' War, about becoming a major political influence in Europe.
Okay.
And they also wanted to beat up the French.
But weren't these two, things aligned? Because if you're Russia and there's the Austro-Hungarian Empire in between you and northern Italy, and you go there, well, I'm going to go there.
Russia was quite happy with the territories it had.
Yeah, but wouldn't the Austrians who were working with them go, all right, so you beat up the French, we beat up the French, and then you go home and we'll just kind of stay here and build some holiday homes and things? Did the Russians start to object to the fact the Austrians were starting to open schnitzel houses in northern Italy or something?
No, the objection is the fact the Austrians weren't feeding them.
They didn't want to carry on fighting. They didn't want to carry on pushing the French.
Ah, right. The Austrians had enough. They thought we've got enough.
And there was...
We've got the ski slopes.
We're all... diplomatic interventions, and Suvorov basically got told, no, you're going to Switzerland.
Okay, you're going back to Switzerland to meet up with the other Russian army.
Yeah, I think to be fair, he thought, bugger this, I'm off. And the only way home was via Switzerland. And so he had to fight his way through Switzerland because it was now for the French troops.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the other Russian corps had got
seriously stomped.
Seriously stomped. Okay. So then,
by the way, it's winter.
Of course, it's winter. Yeah. That's the time to go through Switzerland, isn't it? That's top of your list if you're on foot in an army and stuff like that.
Made it through. He won just about every encounter on his.
Were there elephants involved if people are crossing the Alps in winter?
No, artillery.
Artillery involved.
The artillery up and...
So the French are in Switzerland stopping the Russians going home after the Russians have given them a bloody nose in Italy, and the Russians are only going home through Switzerland because their former friends, the Austro-Hungarians, they've fallen out with them because the Austro-Hungarians got bored with beating up the French. So then the Russians decide to go home, go through Switzerland, and bump into a load of French people who, instead of going, you've just beaten us up in Italy, we will step aside, please go home, say, let's have a go. And then they get pasted as well. So the Russians are kind of giving everybody a kicking all over anywhere where you go skiing.
No, I don't think it's fair to say the French got a kicking every battle, because they won a big battle at Zurich. I can't remember if that was against Suvorov or the other guy.
That was against Suvorov, was it?
So basically the French were falling back in good order.
Yeah.
Until Napoleon turned up on the scene and they went, let's go for him.
Right. And he was just like, right, let's have a go at this because we don't like falling back in Switzerland.
Well, also Napoleon had just announced himself as first consul, so he's like going, yeah, I'm in a dodgy position politically. Unless I do something spectacular and do it soon, I spy a guillotine coming my way. So he basically turned around and went...
Even from his brother?
Well, his brother would be alongside him on a guillotine.
A family guillotine?
Well, yeah, that's what was happening at the time. 2-for-1s.
Right.
So they basically turned around and went, okay, we've got to do something about this and do something pretty sharpish.
And how? Where and when did he do that? Was this a battle whose name I might have heard of?
Yeah, well, by this time the Russians had cleared off, so Napoleon was going to
no one left to fight.
Italy.
No, there's all the Austrians to fight.
Oh, sorry. So the Russians are trying to go home through Switzerland to avoid the Austro-Hungarian Empire. They beat the French people who are there and break through, and then Napoleon goes, "I will go there and stop them." But they've all gone.
Napoleon went
this is winter
to do the Austrians.
So the Russians had got home then.
Yes.
And they'd broken through.
Well, some of them. They left a lot of cars behind.
Right. And then Napoleon's going, right, I need to do something for my own political base in Paris. So who's available? The Russians have already gone home, and they're quite good. I kicked the Austrians already. They look like top of the list of easy meat.
And they happen to be in Italy, which we want back. Yeah.
And they want back Italy. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So there's this famous picture you've probably seen of Napoleon crossing the Alps.
With an elephant, no?
No, not with an elephant.
With the horse rearing up.
Yeah. Picture by...
The famous thing is Napoleon crossed the Alps with his artillery. So it was very much modelled on Hannibal. But the story is that Napoleon got his troops to put the guns on sleds and cross the Alps with his artillery, and that made all the difference. And then the very famous French painter called David pictured Napoleon crossing the Alps with his artillery, and as Pete says, on a rearing horse. And that's kind of the beginning of the Napoleon myth, because at this point he's the first consul, as we said, and it's now becoming less about the revolution and more about Napoleon as a personality.
Okay.
So it's Napoleon on the white horse where it's all rearing up.
That's a very famous painting.
This one.
White Horse in the Snow. Okay.
There you go. That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
There we go.
Good paint
All
job.
right.
The horse has
Yeah,
got
so-
a red paint
In the
job.
original.
This is
Very
the
big
picture
picture.
where he looks like a stylish and cool, handsome man, when
Yeah.
actually he was like a short bloke with a chip on his shoulder.
No, he's quite young and cool then, and he wasn't
All right.
that short.
He wasn't that short. He was 5'7",
Yeah,
which was
exactly.
actually above average for French.
So he'd look down on Dave.
era.
Right. Okay. Dave's the only person he can look down on.
You're not
Okay.
seeing Time Bandits.
So basically, he's had another go at the Austrians and to stop himself getting his head chopped off, and he's had to imitate Hannibal to do so, and he's done it with sleds and guns.
Yes.
So he's in northern Italy. He's taking these things over the thing. He's got a load of guns together because that's his shtick. That's what he does. He's beating the Austrians because they're a bit rubbish and they panic whenever he see him.
Well,
Well,
really, in fact,
that's
he nearly
the
lost the battle.
One that's behind me. That's the Battle of Marengo, where he's got 24,000 troops and the Austrians have got 30,000. But the Austrians decide to advance into mass guns. Not a smart move. So basically, the French mow them down.
That is a battle that the chicken mill's named after, isn't it?
Yeah.
The chicken meal.
Yeah.
Chicken
Chicken
Marengo.
Marengo.
Marengo chicken.
So I don't even know anything about the food. What's chicken Marengo? Is this a big part of
chicken
Napoleonic history I know nothing about?
I think it's a chicken breast stuffed with garlic, or is that's Vienna or something?
No, that's
Kiev.
Kiev. That's Kiev.
Yeah, same difference.
So what's chicken Marengo then? Does anyone know?
I think it's made.
I've not exhausted your knowledge of the Napoleonic Wars, have I? When it comes to cooking.
No.
No. Okay, so that's the
So-
exercise for next week.
So this is June 1800.
So it's a summer meal. It's a salad,
Yeah,
possibly.
it's a summer meal.
It's not a
and
warm thing. It's
basically
not a
the-
stew with dumplings or anything. No.
Yeah, Austrians.
Chicken
are,
Marengo is a
advanced-
French dish consisting of a chicken sautéed in oil with garlic and tomato, garnished with fried eggs and crayfish.
Fried eggs.
What? Fried eggs and crayfish?
That's brilliant.
That's astonishing.
Why have I
Fried
never
chicken-
eaten that?
Why have you never eaten it? Sounds ludicrous. That's like ready, steady, cook, isn't it? Basically, what have you got in the fridge?
We've got a crayfish.
Here's the mystery bag.
So clearly, they weren't expecting to win this battle. They win it. He goes back to his staff chef and goes, "Make me a special dish to celebrate this victory." And the bloke looks in the fridge and goes, "Shit, yes, this is the thing.
Yeah,
Fried eggs."
It is Prolo Marengo.
His chef Dinon foraged in the town for ingredients because the supply wagons were too distant, and created the dish from what he could gather.
Clearly, yeah. So it literally was ready, steady, cook.
Yeah,
but in the Napoleonic Wars.
Couple of crayfish in the barrel, sir.
Fantastic. So we've got the ready, steady cook of the Napoleonic Wars, and this. After this, he's done this. He's invented the world's maddest food, and I think probably before we even get to the dessert stage, that's probably a good time to stop this episode, and we'll return with more culinary adventures of Napoleon. next
Just
week.
before we stop, I've got to say that after 3 episodes of teaching Timmy about Napoleonics, I now understand it less than I did 3 weeks ago.
I think that's partly the aim of this, but I'm
And
glad,
got to know more about the
got
food.
The crazy stuff yet.
I'm glad my questioning is helping bring out a new dimension of it.
Yeah.
And
there is a lovely, just one little vignette. There's a lovely memoirs of a French squaddy, and I think his name is Eleazar Blaise, and he talks about life
Jean
in the
de
French army
Crevette,
during
no?
time. Pardon?
Jean de Crevette, no?
No, his name is Eleazar Blaise, but
Okay.
he talks about life as a French squaddy, and he says, in terms of looking after people, he says, if you get a guy in your squad who can cook, you look after him. You don't let him do guard duty. You don't put him in the front line. You don't let him die. He said, lieutenants, yeah, they come and go. They're 10 a penny. If your officer die, nobody cares. But cooks need to be guarded.
But clearly, they obviously couldn't find one when they were trying to cobble together the chicken merengue, because that's just random. Maybe it's someone stoned. Brilliant. Well, look, thank you for that week's learnings. We've gone quite digressed. And which way round are their hats still now? Are their hats left to right? Triangular?
Cross, I think.
Still bygons. The shako doesn't come in till after Italy.
Fine. We're still in like bicorn hats then. Good.
Yeah.
Still a bicorn,
That's all I need to know. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, then. Well, we're into the army list part of the week, and this we've got a classic, absolute classic list, the Late Imperial Roman. So, without further ado, list number 86, one of the most iconic lists there is. I think even non-war gamers might know this, but I'd be astonished if there's any non-war gamers listening to this. So, Adam, talk us through your Late Imperial Roman 400 AD, as it turns out, theory.
Okay, so first general idea. Again, thing about late Imperial Romans, you can have lots of different things. And I was thinking, what should I do? And I considered having a German ally with lots of foot to surprise people with Roman supports. But then I thought, well, if I was going to do that, I would do patrician Roman. The patrician Romans can do that better. And then I thought, how about solid infantry center with legions and auxilia and some supporting cavalry? But if I was going to do that, you probably want middle or early Imperial Romans. So I thought, what is it about late Imperial Romans that's good? And I could think of two things. Firstly, they had lots of different things. It was like a toolbox. And secondly, late Imperial Romans, if done right, just look cool. So you've got to have an army that looks cool. And I thought, well, I'll go for a bit of bits and pieces army. So looking at three commands, starting at the bottom first, because it gets more complicated towards the top. The first command, you have to have 2 heavy foot in this army, which in a way is a bit annoying because 2 heavy foot isn't enough to do serious damage, but they've got to be there. So I thought 2's not enough, so I'll have 3, because 3's starting to be a bit of poke. They don't have to be impact, and you can have armour, but you don't have to. So I spent the points to upgrade them to impact, because if they're going to fight, they might as well. And for that amount of points, they might fight at some point. But I didn't spend the points on armour because the legionaries aren't the point of this army. And that command's also got 2 skirmishers and medium artillery. Now, it's got an ordinary general that's included to save points. This command sort of like takes a bit of space. I debated most about the artillery because it's 10 points, but I included it for 2 reasons. Firstly, because it'll be a cool looking model, because it's artillery and it looks good. And secondly, it gives this command more of a reach to involve itself in a battle, because this command would probably start set back and come forwards and get involved if I wanted it to. And if the enemy attacked it without me wanting it to be attacked, I've probably already lost. And the artillery gives it that little bit more ability to affect things. The second command is 4 heavy cavalry impact, 2 elite, and 2 light cavalry javelin. It's fairly obvious what that command does. There's not too much discussing there. It's 4 wide heavy cavalry impact, 2 elite. It hits whatever it hits in front of it, and probably within period, it probably hurts it. It can probably fight most things that it put in front of it. The complicated bit of this army is the first command, which is commanded by a strategist, and it's got 2 elite cataphracts, 2 equites heavy cavalry. Oh, points have gone weird. Well, it should be 2 equites heavy cavalry, 2 light cavalry bow, 3 auxilia, 2 of them elite with impact, and 1 auxiliary bow. Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? So I might have to lose a skirmisher or something.
You kind of run out of points if you do that, Adam.
Yeah, no, it's got to be heavy cavalry, Tim. So I've 2 points. The auxiliary would have to come down to ordinary.
One of them will.
Yeah. So the 3 auxiliary, one of them elite. There's also a bowman, and this command's got quite a lot of different moving parts. To do it basically, you've got 2 lumps of.
You're illegal now, aren't you?
No.
Not if you drop one of the auxiliaries from elite to ordinary.
No, but for number of cavalry.
No. Why is that illegal? No,
because you can take 2 of them as Goth cavalry. That's okay, yeah.
Yeah, 2 of them.
The barbarians.
Yeah, 2 of them. 2 of the heavy cavalry impact are foederati.
Right, got you.
So anyhow, the first command again, it's got cataphracts, it's got auxiliary, it's got heavy cavalry, it's got archers, with a strategist. So there's a mounted lump and there's a foot lump, which you can use like that because 3 medium swordsman impact supported by a bowman is good in a rough, and then elite cataphracts, heavy cavalry, some light horse as well, and that can be useful. But this command's the toolkit command. Because you can do lots of different things with it. If the opponents have got lots of light horse on that wing, you can move the archers out wide to support your light horse and chase them off. The cataphracts can fight the enemy cavalry, or it can come inside and support the legionaries, because 3 legionaries on their own isn't that scary, but 3 legionaries with 2 elite cataphracts next to them, and then 3 medium swordsman impact next to that is getting quite wide. And the whole point of this army is it poses a lot of questions to the opposition, and it's got answers to more or less anything the opposition can throw at it. Having a strategist gives that first command enough command points to do what it needs to do, and is also useful for messing around with terrain. The drawback of this army is I think it will be quite effective, but I would need to practice an awful lot with it before I got effective with it, because I think it would be quite a hard army to use and it would need practice. Once that practice was done, I think it would be quite useful, because I can't think of too many in-period armies that I would think I can't handle this with this army. So yeah, it's that classic toolkit, can do lots of different things as needed type army.
Yeah, you can. Well, it's absolutely a toolkit, isn't it? With all those different bits.
I mean, for instance, usually the legionaries would probably go in the middle with the 2 wing commands, but I would quite like to use this army with the waterway, anchor it on the Rhine or the Danube, and the legionaries go next to the waterway with the artillery shooting, and then just all the mounted troops and the medium foot mess around in the open bits. It can be used in many different ways, and I think it's got answers to most things.
It's kind of really close to having an initiative of 4, though, isn't it? You've got, so is it the strategist is 2, the competence plus 1?
Just needs two more light horse.
Either 2 more light horse, which might be too many, or upgrade, one of the generals again, because then you'd have an initiative of 4 to give you even more chance of lurching forwards. And
you've got
4 light horse. You've got 4 light horse, which is sometimes either, I can see what they do sort of, but it's sometimes that's either neither fish nor fowl, isn't it? It's not 2 and it's not 6.
I know, but they do the jobs in the sort of like first command. It skirmishes in the flank and they can be supported. And in the middle command, it can skirmish out while it's going on. So I did think about getting to initiative 4, and it might be possible to include the competent general with the heavy cavalry impact, because he's not doing too many different things. So that might be a thing forward. But then again, having that flexibility, might be good, because so I suppose a minus week like that could work, but
it gives you a lot of committed generals, doesn't it?
Yeah, is 1 initiative point huge? And in some ways, the last command that I've got as ordinary doesn't really need to be competent.
No.
So you're spending
can afford to lose him, can't you? Really?
Yeah. You're spending points just for that 1 initiative point. So that might be a thing. I'm not sure
Dave,
how.
You've used similar-ish armies to this. What's
I like. I mean, it's my favourite sort of historical period and my favourite army. But I think it really. I mean, there's an overall problem with this army, which is the Roman legionaries in period as well get thumped by cataphracts. And I agree with Adam that he's got the cataphract elite into the first command to support the legionaries. But I feel the legionaries are always at a bit of a disadvantage.
I think they are, but you've got to have them.
I think that weakens the army in itself, in its total. I think the one interesting thing we can do with the legionaries is almost treat them as you can actually treat them as terrain troops. Because although they're heavy infantry and they get a -1 in terrain, they're still impact and they're still very good. So you can actually say, right, the legionaries are just not afraid of terrain and they're going to sail through any terrain that's available. And I think
they can do that, but I think that also they might get thumped by cataphracts. But if you're fighting an army again with lots of heavy foot, all of a sudden it's that toolboxing. All of a sudden they can kind of shine because they're not afraid of impetuous foot supported by cataphracts. So again, it's sort of like the hold them back if things are looking dodgy, commit them if they're not. It's an army that I think will take a lot of finesse. So as I say, it would be difficult for me, and I would need a lot of practice.
They'd go up against what we've certainly played
Medieval Knights.
Yeah.
No,
I knew you were going to say that. Peter, Medieval Knights.
Sicily.
Well,
Normans in Sicily,
Persians with the elephants.
Sorry?
The
army this one normally goes up against is Sassanid Persians. And a bunch of elephants coming in. Yeah. That's going to rip through this.
Sassanids and Palmyrans are going to give these army
because your horses are heavy cavalry impact, so they can't run away. If I was playing a Sassanid Persian list, I'd be loving coming up against this.
I don't know actually, because with Sassanids, that second command of 4 impact heavy cavalry, 2 of which are elite, and a couple of light cavalry javelin, against your flank Sassanid command of 3 or 4 Clibanarii, the impact is just going to mean you can get stuck in there, isn't it? And the light cavalry javelin are probably better than the Sassanid light horse bow.
Definitely.
That's not a bad command to press a Sassanid flank.
If I've got a heavy cavalry bow, right? So I'd be pulling you forward with your heavy cavalry impact by shooting it. Well, staying at range. Either I try and just run back, but if nothing else, I'm going to try and pull you forward with a bit of shooting for my elephants then suddenly hit you.
The elephants will be a problem. Artillery might be a bit of a hard counter, but also elephants can't be everywhere. And again, this army is okay, elephants, I can't do that. I'll sort of like stay back here, and there's going to be somewhere else where the Sassanids are weak.
The medium artillery is a bit of a challenge for the elephants, isn't it? That's a slight, balancing thing. But yeah, can you go forwards with the cavalry and use the artillery? The artillery almost need to be dragged forward with the foot. I think that's one of the things that the AGLG possibly could, maybe next time around could do with fixing that sort of Roman artillery on carts thing to make that work a little bit better. So,
well, it is a medium artillery. It can move.
It can move. I suppose it can move up, but okay.
Yeah, it can move one per turn, but then you can't shoot in that turn.
Yeah, but that's what it's supposed to be. I mean, medium artillery is supposed to be artillery on carts.
Yeah.
That's what it is supposed to be. I mean...
This means war.
Should we look at Andy's list? Shall we have a look at that one? Let's flip to that one. So Andy, talk us through your three commands here, which is a very different combination.
Not hugely in some ways. So again, let's start with my third command. That's got an ordinary commander, and that's basically the mounted wing. It's got 2 ordinary heavy cavalry impact, 2 elite cataphracts, which again can support the infantry if they're next to them and relevant, and then 2 light cavalry bow. The medium command is commanded by a strategist, and I've gone for the 4 Goth heavy swordsman impetuous. I took the view that in period, you're probably going to be fighting, some heavy infantry type armies, and heavy infantry is as best for holding off enemy cavalry as anything else. I mean, you don't seem to get stuff with spears, but if you're not up against cataphracts, then heavy infantry would be, against acceptable. I've gone for 3 legionaries, of which 2 are elite and 1 is ordinary, and I've given them armor. That command's also got a mediocre medium swordsman to, in theory, run around the end of the line and start doing overlaps. It's got a medium artillery, and it's got LMI bowman to annoy people at long range. So that's got a bit of shooting. It's got 2 proper shooter units and a light infantry bow, and it's got heavy infantry, and it's got a strategist so he can hold back the impetuous Goths if he needs to. Then the first command is my terrain command, and obviously with a strategist, what I would hope to do is close down one wing of the battlefield by chucking lots of terrain in it, and then that command would operate there and narrow down the field for anything more maneuverable the enemy might have. They've got 3 medium swords, of which 1's mediocre and 2 are ordinary, but they've got impact. And then they've got javelin man, just in case the enemy turned up with an elephant, a light infantry javelin in case the enemy turned up with an elephant, and they've got an LMI bow and a light infantry bow. So bit of shooting from that command, and if it's an open battlefield and there's no serious cavalry lurking around, they could join in an infantry fight with the command in the middle.
Intriguing. So yours is much more, Adam used his strategist for a very mixed command that was doing 2 or 3 different jobs. You've used your strategist for a big, tough, heavy foot command which can go into things and wreck it, with the armor impact elite legionaries, which is as good as it gets, and also the impetuous heavy swordsman who will do damage to pikemen and things like that as well. With a couple of sort of supporting troops, he's there to hold that. Your cavalry command still has an ordinary general, but that's where you put the cataphract, so it's not quite as easy for that to operate separately or in 2 pieces there. And
I toyed between making the general competent but included in the cataphract. That would give me another 1 on the initiative, but I'm never comfortable having included generals, because if they get locked into combat, the command control of that corps goes to pieces.
Yeah, actually, would it give you another initiative? Possibly. Yeah, it's a tough one. I think with the heavy cavalry impact and the cataphract, I wonder with that third command, the cataphracts naturally sort of want to support the infantry centre, and then that leaves you with 2 heavy cavalry impact. I just wonder whether the command and control is quite enough in that one, because it could operate as 2 different things. To an extent, and then that leaves your heavy cavalry command a little bit light, maybe, because your cataphracts get pulled off to support the centre, or maybe the centre is actually just good enough. It's 7 wide, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's got 7 fighty infantry, well 8 if you count the medium. So I think it can look after itself up to a certain point, and the cataphracts, whereas they're not the ideal thing for taking on impact cavalry because of the armor. I take the view that they're even in the first round, and then after that the armor is going to help in its advantage. Okay, the others can back off and then charge in again, but you're still no worse off than even in any of those fights.
All right, Peter, do you want to just chip in and say how would this do against feudal Spanish or another medium knight army, and then actually make a point about it, or is that tradition?
Well,
Spanish.
the knights usually stomp everything.
Yeah, knights usually stomp everything.
Back to the elephants, but the what I was looking at for both lists though are a bit short on shooters.
That Late Imperial Roman, yeah, they are.
Yeah, but that's see, I've played Late Imperial Roman in a couple of tournaments, and it's that's why I had 2 medium artillery, and 2 legionnaires, because you need a couple of extra shooters, because there's a lot of armies that you can have which are like X number of shooty people and everything else, and in order to keep them straight, you just have a couple of extra, the artillery and such like, because otherwise there's a tendency that they'll sit back and you've got to keep on trudging forwards. And especially like your list, Adam, with the horsemen, there's the tendency that someone could just, if they're on the right wing, they could just hide out with a bunch of bowmen in the rough and cut you to pieces a bit.
Yeah, and again, my army, how that would work is where the rough is, that's where my auxiliary is pointing at, and my mounted command is being supported. That's what I mean about. I probably couldn't play that army too well, but I tried to design it so there's always an answer. So yeah, there can be bowmen sitting in rough, and they're going to get run down by medium for impact. That's kind of like
right. So that's the problem with some of the ADLG ones, is that you can actually have terrain on either side. Bowmen shoot 4, and so that starts limiting your horsemen. I've just had it because it's what's happened to me. I'm just saying what I've had when I've had late Imperial Romans, and you're going forwards, and you find out that those couple of mediums that you wanted are actually on the wrong side of the fence. That's why I've found it quite interesting having a couple of medium artillery. Then you can swing it round, and you're really spoiling their day.
Yeah, I wonder if the strategist kind of compensates for that by giving you that extra bit of control over terrain.
Yeah.
Possibly.
That's why you were saying about getting 4 initiative, weren't you?
That as well, but the strategist gives you an extra terrain move, doesn't it? So
yeah,
this army,
and you can do the same one twice as well, which is useful.
Yeah, this army is quite reliant on sort of the right terrain. So maybe the strategist is more important, because
the other army is as well.
True.
Both reliant on the terrain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I look at this list and think, it's all drilled troops, and do you put the impetuous swordsman in? It's not one I'd naturally go for a strategist, but looking at both these lists and thinking what it's missing, that extra bit of control over which bit of terrain falls where on the table that strategist gives you, possibly does make him a useful thing, much more useful thing to have in this list than it looks at first glance.
One of the things I would be tempted to do is taking the idea from what people do a lot with the medium knights and such like, is have 2 large commands and one, like when we have the 2 medium knights with the commander included sort of thing, a light, doing that sort of thing as a small micro command, as it were, you put that down first on the table, or have it as the flanker, and then it allows you that bit extra to be able to deploy the 2 larger commands and then have that mix and match of troops to be able to utilize them better. Because
I do look at this one, and the thing that jumps out with partly that in mind is I'm just not sure about the cataphracts and the heavy cavalry in that 3rd command. I just wonder if the cataphracts be better in either of the other 2 commands, and working with them.
The cataphracts are usually better when you've got. I liked it when Adam had the cataphracts with the medium troops, because then they can advance up at the same time, same pace sort of thing, with the mediums doing any terrain and the cataphracts doing anything out of the terrain. But the other thing that's nice to do, if you can have it, is have some sort of medium cavalry, just normal, not impact or anything else, with the cataphracts, because then they can get around and stop people trying to escape.
Again, that's not late Imperials.
They don't have them.
No,
it's just the heavy cavalry, isn't it? Just those decent heavy cavalry.
And I've maxed out on the cavalry.
Yeah, that's it.
Where the shooting's concerned, having a medium artillery with a bowman has got reach, and you've got the artillery factor turning elephants into a 0. So that's quite good shooting. But having a medium artillery paired with a bowman is a really good thing, because you get that extra +1 on the artillery. So that's a really strengthening thing. Personally, I quite like Andy's version with all the infantry. I think that's a really interesting way of doing it. But I would probably choose Adam's list of the 2, because I'm a cavalry person. The only criticisms I say is I take one of the light horse and put it into the cavalry commands, So you had 3 Equite Illyricani with javelin, because I think 3 light horse javelin will always overwhelm an opponent's light horse.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think that's a really good. So when I use Alexander, I put 4 heavy cavalry together, but I always put them with 3 light horse and preferably 3 light horse javelin, because the javelin have got the up on the light horse in the initial contact, scare the opponent's light horse away, get them on the back foot, and then the cavalry can move in with protection from the light horse to move in.
Yeah, that sounds like it makes sense.
So with this one though, with like the Sassanids coming in on both of these, that you're going to be aiming for the terrain with the medium swordsman. So that's where I'm going to stick the elephants. And so they're going to be coming straight against those guys, against your first command. I can mitigate your heavy cavalry.
I'm going to be putting down plantations. See how the elephants like that?
What?
I'm going to be putting down a hill with a plantation on it and 2 plantations if I can. See how the elephants like that lot.
I'd actually
worry about that.
choose to defend in plains, get the extra terrain, put down plantations and hill with a plantation on it, and make it. I would actually choose to defend in plains to get the extra.
But Dave, what would you do about the elephant riding knights with bow?
Yeah.
Well, elephant artillery.
If you were going to a competition,
I hit them with my drones. Quite simple.
The options are Palmyran, Sassanid, and Late Roman. Late Roman would be your 3rd choice, which is a real shame because it's a great army. It's a classic.
I really like it.
Wargaming army. It's a classic wargaming army. Everybody's got one. It's probably the first one, and it's a classic wargames army because everybody's seen the Notitia Dignatum with all the shield designs, and they love it for that thing. One of the problems in ADLG is the legionaries get ridden down by cataphracts. But I think we were addressing that.
There might be a fix to that coming. All right. Well, shall we just run down the list then and see of these 2? So we've got Adam's more kind of cavalry-rich army with the complicated, Swiss Army knife command run by the strategist, or we've got Andy's kind of a little bit more. Each one does what it says on the tin, using the strategist to command a big in-your-face block of dangerous, impetuous infantry. So Dave, of those 2, I think you just said you're leaning towards Adams. Is that where you're going to end up lent?
Yes, because I prefer lots of cavalry, and he's minimised the legionaries who I think susceptible. And as I kept saying before, you can use those legionaries in the terrain, which gives them almost somewhere to hide in, funnily enough, considering they're heavy infantry. But I also, I go to Adam's list, but I think Andy's list is really interesting. I've not thought of an infantry heavy version, and I think that could be quite fun.
I think in a 2 list, if it was a 2 list competition, those would be 2 quite different things. So Peter, which one of these, given that feudal Spanish is off the table, would you choose? Would you choose the cavalry, the Adam-esque cavalry one, or the Andy-esque more infantry one?
You can't say neither.
Yeah.
I'd chew them both up and spit them out.
Yeah.
I knew that was coming.
It would be like easy first round win. Right. So Adam's list, you've got it down. You've got a straightforward plan. You know what you're going with it. You know what you're aiming at. You've got to be storming in. You've got to be in it to win it and go straight forward. With Andy's list, it's a bit more finesse, and I think you get luckier with it.
You sure? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm all worried about that.
Andy's list with all the foot, it's got more finesse.
Well, the simple fact is you've got to actually get it in the right place. Otherwise, they're going to ignore you. I don't know. I think I'm leaning towards Adams because you can actually get forward and actually get in there. But you've got to really be pushing forward. I don't think you can be sitting back with it.
You said Adams. You sure you don't mean Andy's?
Yeah.
What do you think my heavy Goths are going to be doing?
Well,
you release the handbrake.
The reason why I say Adams can't be sitting back is that you've got what, 1, 2, 3 shooters.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
You've got no light infantry to protect your medium swordsmen. so they can't sit back, because otherwise I'll sit back and shoot them, apart from one bowman, which I could quite happily ignore with one light in front of it. Your heavy cavalry don't have any shooters, so if they sit back, I can pot away at everybody else. And your legionaries with the one medium artillery is designed to slowly stomp forward, shooting things on the way and saying, come and attack me. So you can't sit back with that one. Andy's one is got these heavy foot federati, so that's going to go forward. Problem is, you can actually skirt around that. I've had that happen to me. It's rather irritating. So because of that, I'm having to go with Adams. But
okay. All right, Tantin, what for you?
Cavalry, Adams.
Cavalry, just cavalry. There's just more speed across the table, more running around.
Yeah, it's do or die.
Do or die.
Just go straight in.
You go into the battle, you either win or lose, but you're in the pub by within an hour.
So it's a better army for shopping.
I thought that was Simon's line.
Right. Okay.
I got in there first.
So Simon, over to you. And
he's nicked your copyright, Simon.
Yeah.
I think I'd be going for Adam's list as well. It just gives you that bigger hitting option of you've got the cataphracts, the swordsman impact, and all, everyone's up there for a fight. So you're going to get a result one way or the other. So you might as well bring a fight to someone quite quickly and get up them as quickly as possible, try to negate any maneuverability. I do like the idea of the medium of the Goths. I just like the idea of scruffy foot running around. But I could see in period, I've played too many mounted armies who can, wander around and just annoy a few heavy swordsmen, and they never really get into combat. So having all the mounted and that just allows you to go and do something to someone. They're both tough armies, so they are terrain dependent. If you get a nice open table, you're in a world of pain.
Yeah, and I think with 3-0 so far, I think they are just so different, aren't they? I think I would really like to try using Andy's list. I think it would be really interesting to try and make it work. I think it's so different to the way I would normally do it, that I think I'm sort of struggling to get my head around it. And I think I would probably want to fiddle about with it a bit more to make something like that work. I think I'm a little bit skeptical about the 2 mediocre swordsmen. The Auxilius Pseudo-Comitatensis is a little bit too much mediocre in an army with 23. I'm iffy about the cataphracts with the heavy cavalry command. But it's really, really tempting. I think if I was sitting down with them, I think I would play around with Andy's list a little bit more to come out with something to be different and catch people on the hop. And I do really like the coming out with something unexpected and catching people on the hop approach. But I think Adams, again, I think there's as always with these things, I would probably try and push the initiative up to 4 to make sure that you could definitely own the terrain, because there's a lot of cavalry here and not quite enough to manage a lot of terrain on table. So the initiative of 4 and making sure that you could go first or whatever would be quite important. And you could probably play that with boosting that 4th general to competent, and maybe putting the other one included as well, which is a bit of a risk, but gets you up to 4, or maybe dropping one of the light cavalry. I'm not so sure. Dave's 3 is really good, but it's expensive to do something. But so I think just from looking at these 2 lists as written, I think I would actually go with Adams, but the one I'd want to take away from this and actually find interesting to play, because I think I can see how Adams' list works, which I think makes it a better list. But I think Andy's list could be a really, really good left field list.
Can I just say on that, though,
practice?
I can see what you're saying about taking Andy's list away and sort of like playing with it.
Yeah.
But the first, as I said when I started talking about mine, the first thing you should do to do Andy's style army, which I looked at, is do patrician rather than late imperial.
Yeah.
Because
exactly,
I think patrician do what Andy's trying to do better.
Yes,
than
that's a very good point. Yeah, that's Andy's list is getting towards the patrician list. Yeah, so there we go then. That's the end of the list section. Thank you very much, everybody.
Is that 5-0?
Sorry,
Was that 5-0?
It was indeed.
that was a sweep. Yeah. So, but close though. I think it was closer than the ones which were less close, if that makes sense.
Well, I might be putting my late Romans on eBay then.
No.
I don't think it was 5-0. I think Big Data Peters just basically said, don't use this list.
Yeah, yeah, he abstained, something like that.
I mean,
Okay.
Pete, I think you're being a bit unfair because you're saying, the problem is you haven't used lots of troop types that don't exist in the army list. It's like, give me a break.
The problem is I've played Late Imperial Romans a lot.
It's rubbish.
And I've won with it. I've actually won a couple of tournaments with them. That's why I know the weaknesses of them.
It's got to work. Okay, well, look, I think we've quizzed ourselves on that, and now it's time for the music to roll in.
This means war.
So with the number 86 done, I think it is time to get the keyboard computer maestro, IT expert Mr. Leroy Mayer, and to do some typing in. Let's do the sound effects. Okay. So what's the random number generator suggest this time?
221.
Well,
221.
Medieval Scandinavian.
Oh, that's
an interesting one.
Get Gordon in as a special guest presenter.
It gives you lots of options. You can have the Denmark or Kalmar Union, which I always thought was some olives, but that's just me.
Yeah.
You can have mixed units. You can have knights.
Medium knights.
Peter Happy.
Peter, it's got medium knights, which means you are one of the people picking this week because we just don't want you critiquing it yet again with the same criticism.
Don't tell them just don't tell them they don't have elephants.
Yeah. So which of the other four of us would you like to go head to head with then?
I don't mind. Who wants to have a go?
I think Simon, because he's doing elephant. He's doing Swedes.
You're doing Swedes. Yes, that's it. You win, Simon.
Yeah, you've got Swedes.
You're painting Swedes as we speak. So next week it'll be Simon, Swede expert, against Peter Webb, medium knight expert, in our list choosing malarkey, which brings us neatly onto probably the quiz, I suspect, in a way.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
Oh, there it goes again. Yeah, yet again that weekly Muppet show with everyone dancing around their
Set to
rooms.
normality. That's what you want.
It's back to normality. It's all good. It's a malady. So Andy, regale us with last week's questions, last week's answers, and then we'll roll into this week's quiz as well.
Okay. Last week the quiz was Poet's Corner, and I gave you the first bits of 3 poems. I wanted you to tell me the name of the poet and the name of the poem. And the first one was "The Assyrian came down like the wolf on the fold."
It's Byron, but I can't remember the title.
Something or other.
It was Byron, and it's the destruction of Sennacherib.
Oh.
And the second line of the poem is, "And he was handed his head by the ones that he rolled."
The War Games version.
Right. The second question was, the first line of this poem was, "The charge of the gallant 300."
The Heavy Brigade, Charge for Heavy Brigade, Balaclava, Tennyson.
Yep, well done, Tamsin. Yep.
That was the Heavy Brigade.
Right. And the third, the Heavy Brigade had a gloriously successful charge, but nobody cares about that. We've just like heroic failures in Britain. That's why there's never been a movie about it. And the third one is boom, 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 boom.
Baldric.
The German guns.
That's the one.
That's right.
It's so mad.
Well, was it Baldric or was it? do we go
No,
back?
it was Baldric.
Write a script writer, so that would be Ben Elton and...
I know, I think it's Baldric. Baldric's our hero. We've got to go Baldric on that one. An eclectic range of poets. Excellent.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
Right, this week the theme is it was inspired by the idea that Simon is painting an 18th century army, and maybe one or two others will as well. So this is called Reich Said Fred. And Frederick the Great left behind some famous quotes, and here are a few with the words blanked out. So it's a chance for Tim to use the blankety blank music if he wants. So what are the missing words? Blank adds dignity to what would otherwise be an ugly brawl. Second one is, blank without military might is like music without instruments.
These are like quite proper serious quotes, aren't they? So
Yeah.
far, although then there is possibly a third one coming.
He said,
Depends what the blank is.
Yes, I suppose it
yeah,
does.
I've-
Like
I've
military
actually-
might.
Yeah, the third one is, the more I see of men, the better I like blank.
Okay, getting a bit left
And
field.
then a bonus one, because I just love this one, even though it's not got a military context. A blank singer. I should as soon expect to get pleasure from the neighing of my horse.
From the name of your horse.
Main or name?
Yeah.
Neighing.
Neighing.
Neighing. Oh, right. Okay, even more. So excellent. So that's three questions, three answers, then three questions and a bonus one before we head into the outro music.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
Oh, yes, French techno lives again. So we're wrapping up. It looks like on screen it's another one at the 2-hour mark, which is becoming our new standard mark, I think.
It's the new normal, isn't it?
It's the new normal. We're in the new normal. We're in week 13 of the new normal. Hopefully not too long as we head into the summer to go on this one. And then, so just to wrap up then, going around the houses for next week's plans. So Tamsin, what have you got now? The judges and all the people and most of the crew are done. Who's up next in Mega City 1?
I got all the criminal elements. So I've got 13 gang members to paint up. I've got some arch villains, some ordinary denizens, and I've got 3 fatties.
Famous fatties.
Hey.
Wheels.
I know Dave's been looking forward to shots of the
wheels.
fatties at some point.
I want to see the belly wheels.
We want to see the belly wheels. Okay. Peter, well, are you is there something, or how badly are you praying for the Austrians to arrive, or at the point at which you're hoping they don't?
I've got 2 plans for this week. I'm going to take a day off and play hopefully several games of Adlago with my son, because he's keen to have a couple of games of that. And then I wouldn't mind the Austrians turning up, because otherwise I'm going to have to start delving into some seriously weird Reaper miniatures, because I've done these sort of like the lighter ones, the easier ones. It's when you start getting into some of the seriously odd ones.
Flying monkeys with fezzes. Flying monkeys with fezzes or something.
No.
That's from Eureka.
Way easy.
I think it's
flying monkeys with pheasants.
Fezzes.
Fezzes.
Good. That sounds good. I like that idea.
It was the Beastmaster with several axes and horns coming out and things like that. It just starts getting a bit odd for me.
Okay. And Adam, are you what's on your list this week?
Russian tanks and Mongol cavalry. Putting them together, give them a paint. So I did all a couple of weeks ago. So I got to start doing the ones on horses.
Okay.
So do the tanks have sheep's tails instead of radio masts?
Well, that's the Russian tanks.
Yeah.
Quite possibly. So Andy, I think we said earlier, you were potentially drilling something this week?
Possibly. If I finish painting the Irish guys, then I've got to drill their hands to put the spears in them. So, but I've got about 25 figures to paint, so I probably won't get to the end of that this week. But that's what I'm doing at the moment. I've also got, as a kind of semi-project, I've got some War Master 10mm armies, which are fancy armies, which I've painted up. And I've got a bit more to paint, so I think might tickle some of them sometime soon in case Richard Case ever comes up with some decent ADLG fantasy rules.
Yeah, those little War Master figures are quite fun. They're quite hard to get hold of now, aren't they? I think they're almost collector's items.
10 mil fantasy, you've got Pendraken and Magister Militum and a few others that do them.
Yeah, but I think the War Master, the original figures are almost sort of semi-classics now. You know, they're becoming collectible-ish. There are people who do go out of their way to hunt them down and use the original kind of themed armies in that sort of GW sort of way from time to time. So Dave, what have you? You know, is it Egyptian still? You're just going to try different chariot colours for a week?
Whilst we've been sitting here for 2 hours, I've actually finished off one of the chariots, and we'll see how that goes. It looks all right, actually. No, Egyptians. I mean, I might actually pull out some of the Ottomans to give myself a break. I think this week's going to be Egyptian skirmishers all the way. Slingers, bowmen, javelin men. Finish the bowmen off. Look at the chariots again and keep going with the chariots. Chariots.
Well, I suppose if you've got 12 to do, so that you can put them on table once.
They're preying on my mind.
I could do that. And Simon, how many units of Austrians are you expecting to finish?
Me, no Austrians at all, because I'm doing Swedish.
Sorry, Swedish. I'm just anybody with a white coat and yellow cuffs. I'm just getting them all blurred up. I'm so obsessed with becoming an expert on the Napoleonic Wars now. I just assume anything with white is an Austrian.
Now, the 7 Years' War, the Swedish guys I bought are almost finished. They just need to be flocked now. So just for a complete break, I'm painting battle elephants. So I've got two of those QRF Mogul elephants, the ones with the full battle armor. Their tusks have got gold horns at the end of them just for the extra impact, and a guy with a big gun on them. So you need elephants with guns.
No, I guess so, actually. I guess so.
This means war.
Yeah, so for me this week, I think it's finishing off the Hungarians. I've got these slightly weird bowmen that I've now, worked out what they are. They're staring at me at the moment. I've got 6 blocks of spearmen who have got pretty simple, one colour tunic uniforms, so that shouldn't be too difficult. I've got the very weird Bauida, Ottoman, Balkan, Yar, Javelin, Malarkey people. And I think once they get done, I have got some sort of half-started, more Bauida. What's that kind of army that's not quite Norman? Is it before Normans? It's Carolingians or something, where they have the heavy cavalry bowmen who aren't actually bowmen. Charlemagne, whatever.
Charlemagne and Carolingians.
Carolingian French, yeah.
Carolingian French, and they have some heavy cavalry bowmen who are actually lancers. And I've got some of those which are figures with bows, which is a bit weird. And I've obviously bought far too many, because I think you only need about 2 or 3 bases of them for the ADLG army. So just for completeness, I think I will probably finish them off before I make the decision, which I suspect could be weather influenced over the next few weeks. See what the weather looks like next weekend, whether I do go with the Black Sails starter set and build some ships in 1/700 scale, which I've not done at all, which I know will end up also involving an eBay purchase of a foam insert for the box that they come in, that then you can store all the ships in and stuff like that. So I suspect I think that would see me paying about another 20 quid just for foam storage for something that to hold ships that are worth 40 quid. Or if the weather's looking really good, it could be the 28 mil, mostly plastic Arabs to make a start on that. But that's just such a big project. That sort of slightly puts me off. So I think that's my week ahead, with a big decision sort of coming up at the end of it as to what to try on that front. So with that, that brings us neatly to just a shade, I suspect, around or over the 2 hours mark, after we've edited out all the real rubbish that's been spoke this week. That would probably get it down to about 15 minutes. So once again, thank you for surviving another 2 hours, as we've done number 13 in this series. Is this 13? Yes, it is, isn't it?
No, 12. 12.
Or 12. 12 was last week, was
12.
it?
This is week 12.
This is 12, but we've also got the 2 specials. So
Okay.
14.
Yeah, don't take away the glue special.
So this is 12 plus the 2 glue specials then. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm obsessed with lockdown. But look, we will be back here next week for number 13. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there. Be alert. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Dave, do you live alone?
Sort of.
Because there's someone
people in the background, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've
Not ghost then.
I've got a flatmate and I've got a visitor as well.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
There's some sort of quarantine thing going on. Right.